been a month with the Nothing Phone 4a, and I've watched a lot of reviews on this, and they all say pretty much the same thing. Great design, solid camera, solid build, effectively a solid mid-ranger. But we have opinions of our own after using this on and off for about a month, and we want to answer the question, is the Nothing Phone 4a the mid-range king at £349? Nothing has always had really eye-catching design, and you've kept the same formula with the 4a because especially in its blue color, it looks really good, and you still benefit from the matrix lights on the back here and a red tally light below when you're recording, which is super cool. It does have some variance versus the 4a Pro, which we recently reviewed, and that does, when you put it side by side, feel more pro. Is probably the best way to describe it. You get an all metal unibody build there, and it does feel like an overall greater phone. But that's the only thing that's really different, because the display is actually exactly the same. It's a 6.78 inch 1.5K resolution with 4500 nits of peak brightness, and the output here is excellent with great colors and detail, and even with brightness at max still produces really good images. The phone's overall IP rating, no, it's an IP64 on the 4a, which is far below that of something like an Honor equivalent or Poco Xiaomi equivalent phone at this exact price point. But I think that latter IP rating is the only real downside to the 4a's design and display. Sticking with the design element, it's the cameras. They're less controversial than the 4a Pros, but they retain the same three lenses. It's a 50 megapixel main, a 3.5x 50 megapixel periscope telephoto, and then an 8 megapixel ultrawide. And at that $349 price point, that is incredible as a camera array. And let's break down those lenses very quickly. The main sensor here in good light is genuinely great. Colors are natural, detail is there, and OIS makes a real difference for handheld shots. Nothing has tuned this really well, and it doesn't over process images like cheaper phones. Video 4K, much like the main lens output, is good and detailed, but stabilization does have a weird judder when you're using this on the move. Otherwise, colors and dynamic range are very good. Telephoto at 3.5x mirrors that of the main lens. Output again is good and detailed, but if you go up the zoom ranges, it will impact the image quality, and essentially you'll then start to see AI kick in, and it does feel not overly good. It loses all of its drama and appeal and lacks sharpness as well. The ultra-wide at megapixel is the weak link here. It does the job, but it's notably softer than the other two lenses. Fine for context shots, nothing more than that, and please don't pixel peep, of course. Bottom line on the cameras, $349 at this price point is insane value for money, and to be fair, if you ignore the ultra-wide, it's a really good camera system. The 4a is powered by the Snapdragon 7S Gen 4, and it's a very good mid-range CPU. In fact, I'd probably say alongside a couple of the Dimensity ones, is the right CPU at this price point, and it performs really well, because if you run Nothing OS on here, it is butter smooth. Opening and closing apps is fast and smooth, and you get some very useful features. Things like force touch on, say, the camera app would allow it to open up, and you can get quick access to things like take a photo, selfie, or a video, which is really cool. And then you still get all the benefits of things like the Nothing Community Playground as well, which allows you to custom add certain widgets onto your home screen as well, which is super unique and very cool. Then, through a recent update, just before we started filming this video and putting things into context, we got a release for the new Gallery app, which added in some really useful, and you're probably going to use these, AI tools, things like AI for removing people out of images, and it works incredibly well. Scans it through, detects the people, and then is able to remove it without any sort of remnants left over. There are other ones on there as well, things like reflection being removed from images. Say, for example, taking a picture of a shop, then you want the reflections to be reduced. It does it, but it does a decent job, nothing incredibly great. Of course, you still got access to the essential key on the left as well, a frame of the body, which is again a useful feature and something that we really like and use quite regularly. But there is a downside to the OS. It runs really well, it looks really good, but the software support is 3 OS updates, which is staggering considering that pretty much every phone that's coming out now from most Android iOS brands is offering between 5 and upwards of 7 years of OS support. So that, I think, is a major letdown versus the competition. In terms of raw performance, that 7S Gen 4, when you run it under heavy load through 3D Mark's Lifestyle Extreme test, does an insanely good job. In fact, there is no throttling here. It's 0.6%, which is irrelevant. So the loop scores come back really stable. And then if you game on this, on games like Destiny Rising, it runs really well. You're getting 60 frames per second in pretty high graphics, and we've connected an Xbox control to this and it works really well. And then the speakers sound decent as well, to be fair. On the performance thing, last one, battery, 5080 milliamp hours with 50 watts of wide charging, which means 50% in 22 minutes and just over an hour for 100%. And on the battery front, it performs really well. For example, things like video playback, you can do over 20 plus hours of this continuously before the battery drains down, which is absolutely awesome. And then if you look at the 3D Mark test that we referenced earlier, it only consumed 6% of battery running that test. Normally we see double digits in the high sort of 10-15% of usage, less than just around 6% here, which is awesome. Which actually, if you compare to the 4A Pro, that used over 10% battery on the exact same test. One thing to note here though, there is no wireless charging on the 4A, which is kind of expected. So the golden question, is the 4A the best mid-range price point phone you can get at $349? Without doubt, yes. Because when you compare this to pretty much every other phone, it offers so much more. There are only really one or two small downsides. That ultra-wide is not great in megapixels, and then the OS support isn't the most lengthy, which for some people may not be an issue. But on every other front, for example, its display, it is stunning, bright, vibrant, and then you get the lovely design and nothing offers that is incredibly unique. And at $349, this is an incredibly hard package to beat. But we want you in the comment section below to let us know your thoughts on mid-range phones that cost, say, $349 to $400. Are you buying the 4A? If not, what's your alternative? Let us know in the comment section below. Thank you so much for watching. Until next one, as always, we out.